Do you remember when you circulated a petition to the other kids in your class about who thinks Mrs. So-and-so is stupid?
Wait. Okay, there have been many petitions. Not all started by me. Not all started by me, mind you, but from like what time are you thinking of? From what time?
I just remember there was a time when you were in school, and I think they were
a couple years ago?
Yeah, I think they were like on the verge of kicking you out. You were in Forbes.
Okay.
Middle school.
Oh, wait, they were on the verge of kicking me out?
Yes.
Were they?
Yes. Well, that's what your mom said when she called me.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Because you would make noises too. You would make these screeching noises
that
hurt everybody's ears, and they would say stop it, and you would do it again anyway.
Well, yeah, that was a form of stimming. That was all I could do. If I didn't, the energy would just keep building up, and whenever I just said stop it, two things would happen. One, I'd feel reassured because of the noise. And two, it would just get a bit worse because I know that people are, it's still going to stress me out of it, but I remember what you're talking about. I was thinking of a different situation, with teacher being wrong, but with this one...
Now, how come you know, before you go on with that, how come you know now why you were making that sound, but you never told anybody what it was about before?
Because I didn't know that.
For years.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know why you were doing it?
No, I didn't know. Well, here's the thing. In 9th grade, my best friend at the time, a lot of times he would ask me, why do I like to annoy people? In fact, he did that all throughout the year. I never saw myself as annoying people to be mean. I knew I was annoying people, but I knew it was just something I had to do, regardless of whether I annoyed people or not. It was just that if I didn't annoy people, it just felt like a strange experience. I didn't know how to comprehend it with the noise, and and now I figured it out that the fact that I was annoying people, it was that one, it was stimming to get the energy out, and two, it was kind of the only way I knew how to interact with people around that age. And he constantly asked me, and until this or last year or so, I never knew the answer, but I do now, and it's just kind of sad that that's how it ends up being reacted to.
So how did you figure it out? How come you can explain what it's about now?
Do you mind if I go on for a while?
No, go ahead.
Okay, well,
thanks for asking.
I'm gonna need to figure out how to state this. Okay.
Oh, can I say first?
Go ahead, I'm gonna need to think about this.
Well, for me, I have something similar, but it's not for noise or being still. For me, it's stress. Like when I get stressed, it's like a bucket filling up, and the way I get it out is basically either go to recess, go home, or just rest and read a book for a while. The only problem in class was that I can't read. We're basically, as soon as you're done with this project, move on to this thing that's very big and should take you the breaks in between everything.
I know, you'd think they were autistic or something, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That they perseverate and they're so obsessive about making you work and work and work.
Yeah, I feel like I really need breaks more often. But the good thing is the teachers know this about me, and if I ask, I can say I need a break, and then they'll let me go into a hallway for some time, and I just walk backwards and forwards. Kind of an easy way to calm down.
I've thought about the question now. and it involves, of course, a bit of a story, but like I said, I started studying how people's minds work and got a bit interested in psychology. And I didn't only take a psychology course, well actually two of the same ones because they taught it differently 2 years in a row, but I also studied on my own about how people react to certain things. And what I found was that when people got stressed out, not just by other people, but in daily life, like with work or with family or something, everyone has a different form of outlet. And what I found was some people, like me, I ended up stimming. Other people just ended up, people just were able to do things on their own, take breaks. And that's honestly what I think is the best course of action. Take breaks, do what you like. But for people who can't do that, there's another way. And it kind of locks their mind down in a way. And what I found is, after psychology, I figured out what it was called. It's called focusing on the id. And that's mainly when people talk about, when people focus on stuff that's more violent or sexual and stuff like that. And that was a lot of stuff that I saw people going on about in middle school, 9th grade, and even some in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. people who often either, were rude a lot, or sometimes didn't seem like they were very good at school, or didn't make smart decisions or open-minded ones. Those were the kind of people, and I thought, that's really annoying. Why would someone do stuff like that? And I thought,
for their own pleasure.
Yeah, and that's one of the only ways people can get their stress out. And I just wanted to find a way to where I didn't want to be a person like that, and I found an escape, which was just stimming a lot. And as I annoyed people, it just made a huge loop that polarized me and them between two choices. And after that happened, I tried to find the root cause of it and how to make it all better. But I'm still kind of looking for it. I have a few theories, but I'm still looking around.
So what do you do now? If you get stressed at school, or are you just more relaxed in general because you're happier?
Well, that's hard to say. Overall with the new school, I am more relaxed in general. But the information I found is kind of a double-edged sword, because I don't like that people are doing this, but to an extent, I can't always blame them for it, because I know that something's probably going on. And sometimes, I'm gonna have to think about this one a bit again. Sometimes I just end up putting earplugs in so I don't have to listen to it and can focus on my work, which sometimes is a stressor in itself, because I need to focus a lot on it, enough that sometimes it's even painful or really monotonous, and I found that sometimes that can be a huge stressor as well.
Well, Mr. Mason, for me, something else is happening. They're saying we're trying. My mom's gonna give me noise-canceling headphones and music, or a book on tape, or something to listen to and kind of relax during class.
Earlier today, you were telling me about how you and your mom were talking about how school was really difficult early on for you, and then you stopped going to school for a while and you did unschool. Can you tell us about what unschool meant? And
it was like we did sports sometimes. I played video games sometimes. It was good because it did two things. First, it really lowered the stress. It basically took my stress into negative stress, basically. Like, if I got stressed, then it wouldn't count, and it wouldn't get me stressed at all. But there's one more thing it also did. It showed me how good school really was. Like, how kids feel like, I hate school. I'd love to stay home and just play video games all the time. Well, I found out how boring that really is. And it's what made me want to go to school. Not my mom want to take me back to school. And it also got me to be able to focus on things I was interested in. Like, for instance, I found out that brain science is really interesting to me.
What science?
Brain science.
Oh.
Like, how the brain can change itself and change how it works. I found that topic is kind of interesting for me.
There's a book about that called How the Brain Changes Itself.
I have another name. I have a book about the same name. The Brain That Changes Itself is what's called.
Okay, yeah, I have that one too.
One thing I'd like to point out is the point that Jake made when he said that video games and that can get really boring instead of school. One thing I found is that when people are can find a thing that they like and do it a lot, something like a passion where they can have control, can grow as a person, if they could incorporate that into school, then they could make it so that people aren't always as stressed at school. That's something that I believe that I want to try to incorporate into school when I can.
You know what I used to think? When I was a kid, I thought, what they need to do is they need to put those exercycles at every desk so everybody could have a set of pedals, right? And those pedals could all be hooked into a machine that let you generate electricity, so that way you could be sitting there pedaling, so you could get some exercise, you could get out some of that, that energy and that tension, and then you'd be able to focus for longer periods of time.
And they could power the school.
And they could power the school.
It's going green.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that is the idea.
Has anyone actually tried that?
Not that I know of. I always thought I should get a patent on that idea and try it out. Because if there are any other kids that are like me and it's hard sitting still at a desk,
Yeah.
that would make it feel
Well,
a
they're
lot
saying I
better.
think that helps a lot of our kids they're doing in school right now. They're doing a lot of kind of little kid versions of the personality tests.
What do you mean?
Like it's questions like how do you like books that are about stuff like science? Do you like books that are full of action, adventure? Do you like ones about fables and fairy tales and fantasy? And you answer that question by coloring in a part of a drawing. However, with a certain color, depending on what it is. So depending on what colors you have the most of, then that's basically your personality. Like green would be very intellectual, blue would be friends, red would be energy.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. And we also did one like, how do you learn the best? Like, do you learn by listening to people? Do you learn by doing activities? And I found that a lot of kids at schools like doing activities and doing physical stuff.
Yeah, I always thought that if we could get the students involved with the work itself instead of just having them read it off a book or off a website, then people could learn a lot easier and actually experience it and remember it as an event rather than just trying to remember facts alone. Because people tend to remember events better.
And we
Yeah,
can
like
just, we
I
can
can
Google on our
remember
smartphones
events
to
from
get
when I
facts
was
now,
like
so if you need
2.
to. Yeah, I always thought that the kids ought to be able to get to ask the questions and the teachers should give the answers if they're so smart. And I thought kids ought to be able to learn more about what they wanted to learn about.
Yeah.
Follow their own curiosity.
Well,
Because
my dad's working on a program that is basically the teachers are a student. The student is a teacher, teaching a computer program how to do math.
Right, because you learn better from teaching.
Yeah, one thing I always thought about, what was I gonna say? One thing I always thought about is that a lot of stuff at school is people were trying to tell us to learn stuff just for the sake of tests. And I thought if we could make it for our own curiosity, then we wouldn't have to just focus on tests. We could just learn because we want to, and that's the best way to get something done. One golden rule: people will do what they want.
I think the world is really afraid of that. I think they're afraid that you won't learn what you need to, or you won't be like everybody else, or you'll be missing some critical skills or information. I'm not sure what the problem is.
They're saying that I did when I was homeschooling is that when I had a question from my mom, you know what she said to do? Look it up and research it. Because that way I could learn stuff. Because it's like learn to do it by actually doing it. Like learn to research by actually researching.
Right.
I thought I had something. What was it? There was.
Is there anything that didn't happen for you along the way that you wish had happened? Like, is there any kind of help you wish you had had?
Well,
Or
during
anything you just
school-
really wish was a lot different?
Well, during my years, I wish the doctors were working better because there's thing that was hurting and it's very annoying. It made social things harder when I hurt. Because when you hurt, it makes social things hard. Like when you suddenly go ow or something like that.
Oh yeah, you forgot to give us the context, and that is that you had tremendous pain in your stomach for a long time that nobody knew about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's important to tell someone. That's something I feel like we should all do more. Tell people how we're feeling.
Yeah. Let's see. To your question, Brad, I mean, overall, I feel like that I don't really have any regrets because I feel like I'm glad I turned out the person I did, but something I wish that people would have offered back at the old schools I went to, mainly because I know that there are people now who might be having these problems, and I thought that they should be able to learn to help them, is that there was a form of special ed there at the school, but one thing was, it just felt like that they often were more or less condescending than everything. And what I thought was that if there's someone with autism, there are Aspergers, then more or less it's just that they have a different set of behaviors or whatever you want to call it, that turns them into a person with a different personality, rather than just a person with a disorder. And I felt like that some of the special ed teachers were focusing too much on the disorder part than how to help.
Mr. Mason, there's something I think they should do. I don't think they should make pills for Asperger's or drops for it. They should do classes for it, like teaching you how to control your anger and try to make that thing be good.